Hey, it's Uncle Joe at Uncle Joe Hikes. We're here at the top of Dix Creek Road. This is up at the chest of TWMA. And we're going to hike this Jarrard Creek connector again. It's been a little while since I've been here. I don't think I have any GoPro footage. I want to say this was probably old enough that I didn't have it. But just wanted to get out today. Going to be traveling out of town next week. And didn't have any rain in the forecast, even though there's some high thin clouds today, but it's just a chance to get out, really. It's the last weekend of April. We are seeing some laurels budding, and down at the bottom of the road we could see some that were blooming, so it's a little on the early side, I thought, but they're coming out, and I think everything's probably going to be a little on the early side this year. So I don't know, what do I know? I'm not a botanist. But I am a hiker, so we're going to hike up to the AT. We may go over and check out the lake. I don't know. Just getting some time in. I haven't been on the trail too much. I certainly haven't been up here since Gobi was in the shop for almost 2 months. So I just put a damper on things. But she's back now, and so are we. The things you find on trail. That's a slice of bread. Now keep in mind, we're a good ways back here at the end of this road. There are camps and campers all along the road, but I have no idea. Of course, with bread these days, with their preservatives, who knows how old that is, right? Well, we got this sign here, illegal trail. It says, anyone developing, maintaining, or using an illegal trail for motorized travel. So I don't think it pertains to foot travel, because it is a national forest and you can travel freely in the national forest for the most part. But they don't appear to want any type of maintenance for it, or at least not for motorized travel. So all of that's like, you know, questionable. But there's only so much text they can put on one of these little signs, right? So we're going to go ahead and hike this. I don't think there's any issue with hiking it. It's just a trail that may not be here much longer if they want this to be growed over, so to speak. So I imagine they're trying to just discourage a lot of motorized use, so that's understandable. But maybe we can get some clarity from the Forest Service and see what they say. Well, the hope is maybe we'll see some flowers, but still a little on the early side. But we do see some petals that have dropped from the dogwoods, which are some of the earliest things that will flower up here. We're seeing buds on these laurels, and we're seeing a bunch back there around where Gobi's parked, and we've seen some flowers blooming off the laurels a little further downhill. So they're coming in. You see them here. So who knows, maybe we'll catch an early one or two on our way up. Well, we are getting some flowers, these white flowers, and I can't remember what these are called. I recall seeing them up on the Buckeye Knob Trail. We are getting some blooms though on the laurel. You can see a lot of these old log crossings here. I may have mentioned in the last time I was out here that this used to be used for mountain biking back in the day. My buddy Emil, who's no longer with us, saw my video out here, my first video I think it was, and said, hey, we used to mountain bike that trail. So this trail has some history, but we may be losing it And it could be the Forest Service just wants it to get taken back over by nature and all of that. So maybe we can get some clarity on that. It may be one of those trails where your feet will be the only maintenance it'll ever get. A little bit of a shame. It's a long way back in here. Not a lot of people will use it for getting up to the AT or summiting Blood, but it is an alternative to getting up to Blood. I'm getting this branch off the road, off the trail. Anyway, this might be the last hurrah of the Jarrard Gap connector. So that's some blowdown that got cut here in the last, probably in the last year. So somebody was coming out to maintain it. Could be that that's what they're trying to stop. I don't know. I did see some tire tracks, and I can see some tire tracks here. So somebody's coming in here, at least on a mountain bike. The lugs on those tires are awfully small to be a motorcycle, but might be the last time. Something left a pile of scat here. Could be a bear. It's hard to tell. It's awfully green and kind of vegetative, so I don't know. There it was. It was big. Yeah. We're on this WMA back here on this side of the AT, so it gets hunted. So I'm not terribly worried about aggressive bears being over here. Now once you cross the AT and go over toward Lake Winfield Scott, those bears have been known to come into campsites or get into campsites and stuff, so, or at least scavenge over there. Well, we made it up to this gap. A little bit of a gap here. You can see where the ground's exposed. I think that's mostly water runoff. I don't think it's from foot traffic or bike traffic or anything like that. Well, somebody's been here in the last few days. There's a piece of cut fruit back there on the ground that's darkening, but was not by any means rotted out. There again, with the preservatives and modifications we do to food these days, it's difficult to say. But I would say at least in the last couple of days. We are starting to see some ground flowers. Got these yellows. Got these purple iris maybe. They're just beautiful. So yeah, spring has sprung. No trillium yet, but still could be a little early for those. I don't know. We have seen those red-toed trillium. At least we did on the Andrews Cove. I haven't seen any out here though, so I don't know. Keep our eyes peeled. Well, come to this crossing here. As I recall, I have to go up and over this way. It's going to be interesting. I managed to come straight across actually, but I'll get my feet in there. I want to say that log used to be part of this log, and it used to walk across that, if I remember right. I can go across that way too if I need to, but I also seem to recall there being a cascade that you could see, but maybe that's another section, I don't know. This is pretty neat though, very beautiful. Well, I was just noting how the higher we get up, the tinier the laurel buds are. Then I saw these flame azaleas. Those are some really early birds. They get real prolific like the end of May and into June. Into June, I mean. But there they are. Looking good. Something's been rooting right in here. Looks like a relatively narrow nose, maybe. I don't know if that's a hog or armadillo, maybe. Anyway, we're pitching up a little steep right here. And I recall we're going to go up through a green tunnel before we pop out on that little private gravel road. It goes back into some private property. And we hop on that and take that over the AT. Well, we gotten into some ground cedar here. I'd kind of forgotten about this little clearing. Of course, these saplings are kind of taking it over. I have a feeling that this was maybe an old homestead site of some sort at one time, maybe. Of course, most of what we've been on is an old logging road. In fact, it's labeled abandoned roadbed on all trails. But, I mean, it's old. And it's pretty much become single track, even though you can tell that there's a ledge to it. So I'd say probably 100 years, or at least 70 years, since anything mechanical's been on it. So I'm hearing what might be a cascade over that way. I know there's some falls down at the foot of Blood Mountain. I think some people bushwhack in there to see it sometime. This sounds like a cascade, but I can also see the trees slightly swaying over in the distance, so it could be that closer over to that side there could be a draw that's just drawing some wind up. Yeah, you can really hear it now. And it looks like there's an old trail there. Old logging road. Really a shame. Can't get to it. Probably could if you walked in there. It's definitely dropping some water. Oh, we're getting close to the top because we're coming to this bypass here to get around this log. We're getting real close to where we dump out on the gravel drive. Well, we just dumped out onto this private drive. That goes down to a gate. This goes up and over the AT. Back into Lake Winfield Scott. It's going to make a big hook. So we'll do a U-ey down here and go up the hill. Well, Jim, they tried to board that one up. Looks like some rowdy teenagers came and kicked in the door. They didn't feel like climbing down to the one in the back. Oh well. There's Blood Mountain looming large. We're making our way up to the AT. Get up the top of this little rise, we'll be able to see the gate to this road. Well, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. I was just hoofing up this road and I saw one over here on this side and I thought, oh, there's a Trillium. And I saw another, and then you get to looking all down the hill, all of that white Trillium. And then all up this hill, white and pink. So awesome. I'm so glad I got to see them. Just so cool. And going up the road here, there's even more. Look at that. Some of them are even beaten up a little bit. I don't know if it's the wind or if it came a good storm or something. If they've been here long enough to fade out, I don't know. It's still early in the season, I would think, but maybe not for these particular ones. There's some of that red, I think it's red toad something. We've been seeing them probably up here for about a week or so, because 2 weeks ago we saw them on our last hike. Anyway, ground's littered with them. So nice. Well, the hogs have been up here rooting around, rooting for the home team. Well, we made it to the AT. Got a new fancy sign. Looks like they used the old, some of the old sign, new post. There you are. Anyway, I think maybe we'll go on down to the lake, get some extra miles. We're gonna duck in here on the Jarrard Gap trail proper. So we're coming down the Jarrard Gap trail. We just came through this kind of open area, and now we're getting into an area that's a little bit darker. We're getting into some hemlocks and stuff like that, so a little bit denser. I think somebody may be out ahead of me because I crossed a little creek crossing back there with some stones. The stone on the far side had water, clear water print of some sort. It wasn't well defined as far as like a shoe, but my guess is it was a shoe. It could have been an animal, but it's hard to say. But yeah, we got some people right down in front of us right now, in fact. Might be able to see them. I don't know if they're heading up or down. There they are. We'll find out. It's not your business. We're going to find out anyway. So that was a couple going up. They're doing the loop, so I presume the Jarrard Gap Slaughter Creek loop. We'll go up to the AT, around the Slaughter Creek trail, and then come back to the lake. So we've done that a number of times. So we've been on this section many times. But give us a little bit of extra mileage. Come down here to the state park and just make a day of it. Yeah. We go across this little log crossing. I don't think that's going to remain intact much longer. I got a feeling it's going to split down the middle. You can see this draw running off from our right, but if you look right in the trail bed where we just came, you can see it coming right there, right out of the trail. We make our way along it. Pretty shallow, not getting our feet wet or anything. Lots of water flowing, that's a good thing. Alright, made it down here to the road. This road here kind of skirts around the campground here. Some private homes here to our right. Yeah. Our Gap trail. Now I can take you out, I think, to the access road for the campground. This will take you back up and eventually, I think, become the little double track that goes over Jarrard Gap that we took up. So we go way around behind the park here, behind the campground. You can see the back of the campground here, one of the camp spaces. This blue blaze tells us to go on this way. The trail's going to come across the road here. On down a little ways here. And here we go. We make our way across this little footbridge. Water's rolling good. Here's the little creek. Alright, come down here to the turn. That'll take you, I think, on into the campground if you want to go that way. We'll walk down here to the lake. The sun's been coming out off and on. It's actually a lot clearer overhead than it was earlier, so that's a good sign. Get a little sunshine. Here we are. We've parked over there before to hike this loop before. 1.2 miles up to the AT, but we'll find us a place to take a little break. Make a little love. No, we're not going to be making any love. Just taking a break. Maybe we'll go straight over here. Well, we took a little break at the lake. Start making our way back. Got some climbing to do to get up to the gap. All right, we made it back to Jarrard Gap Trail. Start working our way up to the AT. Only about a mile. All right, we're back up here at the gap. Looks like we got a hiker unpacking up here. We'll make our way this way. And there's our gate. Should largely be a descent from here. All right, we're getting back here to our turnoff. Should be coming up pretty quick. There's a little bit of a walk down here, probably close to half a mile. Anyway, we're back to our single track. Got a long descent down to where Gobi's parked. Now we're back here where that Cascade is flowing off in the distance. Not gonna go back there. May do that another time. I tell you who would. Phil True Love. Phil, you'd have done headed off in there. You probably already know about it. You'd be like, you know where a great waterfall is? It's right through here. It's like, there is no through there, Phil. That's called a thicket. But he'd find it. Got a really nice breeze blowing. We come upon these flame azaleas. Ones we saw earlier. They're the only ones I've seen, so those are like the early birds. Well, we can see the creek running. If you look ahead up into the trees, you can see it cascading down. And if you look a little further, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but even further up you can see it cascading down. So it's dropping from considerable distance. Way on up there. Yeah, it's gone now, but you know that it's going to come in from up there all the way down. So it's quite a distance to drop, but after a big rain it's really rolling. Well, right in the center, I missed these earlier. Big old thing of flame azaleas. Those are beautiful. Very orange compared to the others. The others had a lot of red in them. Pretty cool. Walking along these little granite slabs here. Little sections. Actually probably about 30 yards long back there. Just caught the tail end of it there on camera. Working our way over here through this gap. Should be right around this corner. And here we go. We'll make our way down the other side of this gap, straight on down to Gobi. Well, we're back at old Gobi. Got some visitors too. I wonder if that's the game warden I saw earlier. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, hopefully nobody broke in and got my Evel Knievel stunt cycle. I like playing with that when I was a kid. We'd build a ramp and try to jump over the coffee table, kick over the ashtray. Mama, get a switch and blister your legs. You go run off to the bedroom crying. Yeah, those were good times. At some point, there was a last time for that. You know what I mean? If you'd have known, you'd have cried a little longer. Well, Jarrard Gap connector to Lake Winfield Scott done. Good hike. Probably a little over 4 miles each way, so a little over 8 miles. I'll put the particulars down below. Hopefully we haven't lost this trail. Try to find out what's going on with that illegal notice. Looks like it's primarily motorized, but it also looks like they're not going to be maintaining anything through there, so it's going to get growed over probably, but we'll see if we can get some official information on that. Anyway, let's get out of here, get something to eat. So while these pictures are rolling, I thought I'd let you know that I did talk to the Forest Service, and my hunch was correct. They intend to let the trail go back to nature, so there won't be any further maintenance on the trail, but you are free to continue to hike it. Just understand that over time, nature's going to win out on this trail, so if you have any interest in hiking it, I would say do so sooner rather than later.